I accidentally sprayed deodorant in my mouth. Now, when I talk, I have this weird accent. Today, I'm going to recap a 2023 action crime film called The Killer. The film begins in Paris. An assassin is gazing out of a window, nearly dozing off as his timer buzzes. He later wakes up, still looking outside, now wearing gloves. Known only as the killer, he leans back in his chair, donning earphones. He spends time observing people as they go about their routines. Deciding it's time for some yoga, push-ups, and maintaining good posture, he then departs his room, descending several flights of stairs. Donning sunglasses and a hat, he scans a bike with his phone, picks up essentials from a nearby cafe, and makes a phone call. The man on the other end mentions an upcoming arrival, and the killer states he's been waiting 5 days and will wait just 2 more. He returns to his building. A narrator describes the killer's refusal to book any more Airbnb rentals due to hidden cameras. He keeps watching people, setting up his sniper rifle as night falls. Suddenly, a man enters, delivering mail, narrowly avoiding a confrontation with the killer. As dawn breaks, the killer, still at his window, reflects on how boredom is one of the toughest challenges in life. His job is mundane until he starts planning accidents or using slow-acting poisons, sparking his creativity. He spends his day cleaning the sink and eventually settles into his makeshift bed. The killer decides to take a brief nap, setting an alarm to periodically wake and check for his target's arrival. However, during one check, he notices curtains opening at the target's place and a car pulling up. A housemaid gets the rooms ready for an important guest. The killer sets up his sniper rifle again and spots a man inside the house. After loading his rifle and adjusting his bed to the window level, he observes more people entering. The maid welcomes additional guests, and the killer, putting in his earphones, sees a woman being escorted to a room. He dons his hoodie and mutters a determined phrase to himself. Remaining vigilant with his earphones on, he watches the man. His watch alerts him to his elevated heart rate. Looking through his scope, he sees his target with a woman, presumably the target's wife. The killer gives himself a pep talk about morals, which surprisingly calms his heart rate. When he takes the shot, he misses, hitting the woman instead. Realizing his position is compromised, he quickly gathers his gear. Putting on a motorcycle helmet, the killer rushes to his scooter and speeds off, narrowly evading the approaching police. As he drives, he discards his gun in a garbage truck and maneuvers through alleys, evading the police with skillful tactics. Eventually, he stops at a set of stairs, discards his helmet, and heads to a grimy public toilet at a gas station. After changing his appearance, he hails a cab to the airport. At the airport, he sees a security dog and changes direction. He cleans up, buys a plane ticket, and makes a phone call from a booth, explaining the situation. On the plane, he notices a suspicious man. Later, upon hearing about a flight delay with an accommodation offer, he accepts it and proceeds to his hotel. In his room, he places a glass cup on the door handle as a precaution and settles onto the couch. The next day, the killer discreetly leaves his hotel and heads to his next flight. He relaxes with his earphones in, flying to his new destination. Once landed, he drives through picturesque landscapes, eventually arriving at a gated property. Noticing boot prints on the ground, he becomes alert, draws his pistol, and scales the gate. He sprints towards the mansion, following more tracks. Inside the mansion, he discovers bloodstains everywhere. He makes an urgent call and heads to a hospital experiencing power outages. There he finds a woman, Magdala, in critical condition. Marcus, presumably a contact, informs the killer that Magdala is his sister and was attacked by a man and a woman. She managed to injure the man and hide. Marcus suspects the attackers were after the killer, but found his wife instead. At her bedside, Magdala assures the killer that she didn't reveal anything about him to the attackers. After leaving the hospital, he uncovers a hidden underground safe. The next day, he packs his bags and drives around town, eventually spotting the vehicle involved in the attack on his house. As night falls, the killer seeks an emergency driver. After gaining access to their database, he locates the driver connected to his case and sends a package to someone named Dolores. He then begins surveillance on the driver, following him and eventually requesting a ride. During the ride, the killer intimidates the driver with his pistol. Instead of money, he demands information. The driver, knowing exactly who the killer is inquiring about, refers to the two assailants as freaks and provides their description. He recounts being forced to drive them to a secluded mansion and waiting for their return. Uninterested in the driver's plight, the killer eliminates him, continuing his relentless pursuit of justice or revenge. Using another false passport, the killer leaves the country and heads to New Orleans. He stops at a storage facility to park his van, retrieve guns, files, and a new license plate for his work vehicle. He also picks up some power tools. The killer then spots a specific woman, whom he calls Dolores, indicating it's time to enact his plan. Disguised as a garbage man, he enters a building and times how long it takes for the door to close. Seizing the opportunity, he keeps the glass door open. When Dolores sees him, she's visibly terrified. The killer confronts her and Hodges, holding them at gunpoint. Hodges recognizes the killer and his profession, urging Dolores to comply. After locking Dolores in the bathroom, Hodges reveals he was responsible for orchestrating events following the killer's missed shot against a powerful figure. Hodges, a leader in the killer's network, suggests the only way to survive is to vanish. Despite his backstory and claims of having nothing to offer, Hodges is wrong. The killer shoots him in the chest with a nail gun and mistakenly estimates he has 6 minutes to live, but Hodges dies instantly. The killer then confronts Dolores, who knows the names he's seeking. She agrees to reveal them on the condition he doesn't leave a mess. His conscience battles with his ruthless nature, but he chooses to free her. However, upon seeing Hodges' body, Dolores faints. The killer disposes of Hodges in a garbage can. Later, Dolores is taken for a drive and, in a moment of panic, tries to escape. She assists the killer in going through files to identify the subcontractors who invaded his house. They discover a name, Claybourn, the client. After obtaining the information, the killer coldly eliminates Dolores, lamenting the continual cleanup his lifestyle demands. He then heads to a motel for some rest, after cleaning his van and grabbing a bite to eat. With nothing left to do, he plans his next move, heading to Florida. Arriving at the address he obtained earlier, the killer observes several men at the location. As night falls, he sees them leaving and decides to tail one of them back to his house. Confronted by a large barking dog at the fence, he distracts it with food and waits for the right moment to enter the property when the dog is away. Moving stealthily, he finds the dog napping and sneaks into the house through the front door. Inside, the target is showering. The killer approaches the bathroom, ready for action, but is surprised by a man who proves to be a formidable opponent. They engage in a fierce fight, breaking everything in sight. Despite being pinned down, the killer fights back, using various household items as weapons. The struggle intensifies until the man reaches for a gun but is injured in the process. The killer, armed and hidden, confronts the bleeding man at the final door. After a tense moment, he shoots and eliminates the target. Fleeing from the pursuing dog, the killer escapes and throws a Molotov cocktail to burn the house, erasing his traces. The next day, he heads to the airport and flies to New York City. Using public transport and renting a car, he arrives at the house of the subcontractor. He surveils the house and rests, waiting for nightfall. He then spots a woman matching the description given by the taxi driver. As she drives off, he follows discreetly. The tension mounts as he prepares to make his move, but the sudden sound of sirens in the distance causes him to halt his pursuit. Following the car, the killer sees the woman, known as the expert, stop at the waterfront for an upscale dinner. He joins her at her table, pointing his gun at her. She introduces herself and inquires if he gave Hodges a fitting demise. Remaining silent, the killer listens as she attempts to engage him with food and tries to distance herself from the attack on his wife, blaming it on the brute he already dealt with. Despite her attempts at conversation, covering morality and the hypocrisy of their line of work, the killer remains unresponsive, fixated on his target. She continues to talk, even attempting reverse psychology and faking a leg injury, but the killer ends her life with a clean shot. His mission not yet complete, the killer sets his sights on a high-profile target. He stakes out the man's residence, waiting for the right moment. He encounters a locked door and resourcefully orders a fob copier from Amazon. Meeting a man who supplies him with an arsenal, the killer is now fully equipped. After receiving his Amazon delivery, he heads to the gym where his target works out. Using a janitor's card, he enters the changing rooms and finds his target. He copies the target's card from his wallet using the device he bought and returns the card without being noticed. The killer then waits for the gate to the building's car park to open. Using the copied card, he gains access to the building and takes the elevator to the 27th floor. He enters the luxurious abode of the billionaire. The target, choosing a bottle to drink from, is startled upon noticing the killer. The encounter between the killer and Claybourn is tense. Claybourn, initially unaware of who the killer is, offers money in a desperate bid for safety. However, when the killer points his gun at him and questions their potential conflict, Claybourn's confusion turns to realization as he sees the card the killer presents. Claybourn explains that after the killer's failed assassination attempt, Hodges suggested that as a precaution, the killer should be eliminated. Using his persuasive skills, Claybourn convinces the killer that he holds no personal grudge against him. The killer, in response, warns Claybourn of a slow and painful death should he ever need to return. With this final confrontation resolved, the killer departs. His journey concludes in the Dominican Republic, where he is reunited with his now recovered wife, sharing a peaceful moment over a cup of tea. The story comes to a close with the killer finding a semblance of solace and normalcy after a tumultuous and violent journey. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.